Howdy race fans, my name is StockCar Scott, and this is my little show about racing I like to call In the Pits. And I don't have an opening yet, so let's just jump right into it. First off, no, my name is not StockCar. I just use that because it's easy for folks to remember, and I like stock car racing. So when I meet people out at stock car races and I want to give them an invitation to join me on Facebook, it's a whole lot easier for them to remember Stock Car Scott than it is to remember my real name. So the reason it's Stock Car Scott is because if you live in the Seattle area, there's a slim chance you may remember on Comcast Public Access, there used to be a show called the Waterboy Sports Show. And during the last couple of years that it was on, they were nice enough to invite me in to do racing type news and to set up my little area to talk about NASCAR and Formula One and things like that. And everybody on the show had a nom de show, so I picked mine to be Stock Car Scott because Scott's my name. But that was the Water Boys, and it was just a whole lot of fun, folks. We used to do it every week live, and it was just a whole lot of fun talking to the camera and telling folks NASCAR and local racing news. And I wanted to do it again for a long time, and I figured I'd give this internet thing a try. I set up a page, or a channel, on YouTube under Stock Car Scott, where people can watch this and watch the video that I take when I go and watch local racing. So I have this little show now to help to follow things like that and sort of explain what I'm doing. I call it In the Pits, and there'll be lots of things discussed here, but mainly forms of cumulative lap motorsports such as NASCAR, Formula One, ARCA, and other types of racing that happens on asphalt. Plus, we'll cover some of the local racing around here. I like to go to South Sound Speedway and up to Evergreen, and there's also the occasional trip to the east side of the mountains over to Yakima Speedway for maybe the Apple Cup or the Fall Classic. Sometimes we go all the way over to the far east side of the state to Spokane because they have a really nice racetrack there. And then just on the other side of the state line from there, in Idaho, in Post Falls, there is the appropriately named State Line Speedway. And I've been there for several races, and it's a really nice track. But I don't want folks to think that I won't talk about dirt track racing or drag racing, straight line motorsports. You know, I'd be glad to talk about Grays Harbor or Skagit Speedway or the drag racing that goes on out at Pacific Raceways. I mean, after all, I don't want to come off like some sort of asphalt circle track snob or anything. I just don't know a whole lot about those types of racing. I watch a little bit of dirt track on TV. I went to a dirt track race when I was 10, 12. You know, I've been to drag races, but it's just not the thing that I like to watch the most. So I don't know a whole lot about those motorsports disciplines. In fact, one might say Iraq discipline when it comes to those types of motorsports. Anyway, so even though NHRA is going to be at Pacific Raceways in Kent at the beginning of next month, I don't know what type of insight or anything like that I could give, I'll of course give out the information. But again, I don't really have any insights into that type of racing simply because I lack discipline. Getting stupid. Got to get a drink of Mountain Dew out of my old Sterling Marlin glass. I'm surprised I haven't broken over the years. But there was lots of racing this past weekend to discuss. The weather, especially here, was great and made being out in it in order to enjoy racing even more wonderful. And that big full moon at the end of the evening was just spectacular. But we'll start off with racing on TV, which started Friday night with the Camping World Truck Series at the Rusty Wallace Palace of Short Track Racing for 200 laps, which was a companion race to the Indy Racing League's Saturday night shootout the night following. So here lately, my favorite truck driver has been Darrell Wallace Jr. Isn't that a great name for a stock car driver, for a race car driver? That just says racing. But his family refers to him, his friends call him Bubba Wallace. And he started on the pole Friday night at the Camping World Truck Series 200 there in Iowa. And he was flanked by his Kyle Busch Motorsports teammate, Eric Jones, who is a part-time driver in the truck series so far. Now, I must confess, I am quite conflicted when it comes to Bubba Wallace. He's from my home state of Alabama, and I want him to do well for that reason, if no other. But he drives for Kyle Busch Motorsports. And you will learn I do not care for that person I refer to as the Toad. Yes, I used to hate his brother Kurt, but now I just wish Kurt was an only child. So I will try to not hold it against Bubba that he drives for the Toad, because doing well in any ride will help him get a better ride down the road. He's already had a couple of wins with KBM in the truck series, and this could lead to something big. It already has led to him having a few starts in the Nationwide series with Joe Gibbs Racing Equipment. So I hope only big things for Darrell Wallace Jr., and I hope one of these days he gets in the right kind of ride. Bubba's teammate, Eric Jones, is another young up-and-comer who got his ride with Kyle Busch Motorsports by beating Kyle Busch at a big late model race called the Snowball Derby in Pensacola, Florida. And he did that a while back, and it impressed the Toad so much that now Eric gets to drive the number 51 Toyota Care Tundra when Kyle has other races to go to, when it conflicts with his Cup or Nationwide schedule. And Eric has already proven himself with a win earlier this season, and he's followed that up with his second career win just this past weekend at Iowa. So with Bubba starting on the pole and finishing second, and Eric winning the race, Kyle was able to pull off a win and come in second without even being in Newton, Iowa this weekend. And in the points in the truck series, Matt Crafton in the number 88 Menards Toyota leads in points, and he leads over his teammate Johnny Sauter, who's in third, and also NASCAR veteran and sprint car legend Dave Blaney's son, Ryan Blaney, is in second in the truck points in a truck fielded by Brian Keselowski. Now, in other NASCAR racing this past weekend, that was all at Loudon, New Hampshire, where coming in second became an unfortunate theme for the rest of the weekend for Kyle Busch, who swept second in both the Nationwide and Sprint Cup races at Loudon. For the Toad, the fly in the buttermilk was Bad Brad Keselowski. Even though Kyle sat on the pole with a record-setting nationwide speed for the mile in New Hampshire, it was apparent early in the race that Keselowski had the strongest car, and his number 22 Penske Hertz Mustang was going to be the car to beat. Other top finishers of note included the Richard Childress Racing number 2, Brian Scott of Idaho, no relation to StockCar Scott, and also Awesome Bill from Dawsonville's son, Chase Elliott, struggled from a lap down earlier in the race to finish a respectable 6th place in his JR Motorsports Napa Auto Parts Camaro, while his teammate in the number 7 JR Motorsports car, Reagan Smith, won the Nationwide Dash for Cash by finishing in the top 10. He was the highest of 4 eligible drivers, and the way he became eligible is by finishing in the top 4 in the last nationwide race at Daytona. Each driver becomes eligible by winning in, or not winning, but finishing in the top 4 in the previous nationwide race. So those who finished in the top 4 in the Iowa race this week will race for a Dash for Cash at Chicagoland Saturday night. It's been making it very interesting over the past few summers that Nationwide has done this. Another driver to look out for in the Nationwide series this past weekend was Las Vegas's rookie Dylan Kwasniewski. He finished 10th in his Turner Scott Motorsports Camaro, and I really expect great things out of young Dylan. Another was Austin Terrio. His name does not look like Terrio the way it's spelled, because it's like French Canadian or something. He was in his second race for JR Motorsports and brought the number 5 home, a respectable 15th place. Austin Terrio is a development driver from Maine, and again, look for great things out of him. Another driver that's one of my favorites is Ty Dillon in the Richard Childress Racing number 3. Of course, he's racing for his grandfather, Richard Childress, and he ran well for a while but got shuffled back towards the end, and I do believe he finished 19th. At the end of the day, point standings didn't shuffle a whole lot. The Nationwide regulars maintained, with Reagan Smith leading the way in points, followed by Elliott Sadler in second and Chase Elliott third in points, with Ty Dillon and Brian Scott, no relation, rounding out the top 5 for RCR. It was during the Nationwide race that I won tickets to racing later that evening at Evergreen Speedway, thanks to being online during the race on Race Buddy and also having Facebook open so I could talk to my race friends during the race. But I'll tell you a little bit more about that good fortune a little bit later. Drink time. Sunday at New Hampshire was the last race ever to be broadcast by Turner Broadcasting after 32 years of showing NASCAR. Of course, Turner Broadcasting is TNT. They were who had the race that this past weekend. But I can remember the TBS Superstation from long, long ago, back in the days when each of the track owners would negotiate their own TV deals for the NASCAR races, separate from that of the NASCAR governing body, and that way they got a little more money. But this led to some of the tracks not being shown on TV, and NASCAR, of course, wanted to put an end to that, get all of the races shown, so they came up with these comprehensive TV plans, and from that they share money with the tracks. But back then, if you remember, there was CBS and TBS and ESPN and the Nashville Network and ABC and Mizzou Sports Network. I mean, each week it was a game we played called Where's the Race? But next year there will only be two providers. Fox will have the first half of the season, and NBC will have the second half of the season. And I am sure I will have more to say about that as 2015 draws closer. But one thing that is for sure, as I pointed out on Facebook, you won't have TNT to kick around anymore. And hopefully the loss of Turner Sports in NASCAR will mean that Kyle Petty will not be required to ever go to Loudon, New Hampshire again. I'm sure each year it is just very painful for him. I'm not fond of racing at Loudon, if you haven't noticed. One of the reasons is it killed two potential NASCAR stars in Adam Petty and Kenny Irwin Jr. Yes, Loudon, you killed Kenny, you bastard. Another negative with Loudon, it is the home of the dreaded track position. It's where it originated because it's so flat. And although the last repaving helped some, a harder place to pass than Loudon, New Hampshire just does not come to mind. And passing equals excitement in NASCAR, which Loudon is lacking. There was a Sprint Cup race at Loudon this past weekend, and Kyle Busch was on the pole again. Bad Brad Keselowski won the race again. Kyle the Toad Busch came in second again, and Keselowski had the car again with his Penske Red Apple #2 Fusion. He came close to just stinking up the whole show, and which is easy to do at Loudon, and I've seen it done before. Now, my favorite driver, Dale Earnhardt Jr., which you probably guessed by now, finished, he started out in 28th, which wasn't a great starting position, and he did okay running the number 88 National Guard Chevrolet SS. Sometimes he ran up in the top 5. A couple of laps he ran up as high as 3rd. But he dropped back towards the end to what for him was a very disappointing 10th place. After the race, when they interviewed him, he was all kinds of dejected about having a 10th place finish, which is great, because I can remember a few seasons ago when he would have relished having a 10th place finish. But now that he's running a whole lot better, and he's won a couple of races, and one of those races was this year's Daytona 500, 10th places just don't quite do it, you know. So he's hoping to run better next, or week after next at the Brickyard, and be doing a whole lot better throughout the rest of the season. One race to check in with is the rookie race. Austin Dillon, my favorite rookie, did not do as well as I'd hoped. I think he finished down in near the 20th place. And wonder rookie for this year, Kyle Larson, finished third in his number 42 Target Chevrolet. So he's doing really well this year, impressing everyone. But as far as the race went, it was Brad Keselowski. He had the Toad and the rest of the field just all covered up. And that leaves us with points. Did it change the points any this year, or this week? No, not a whole lot. Even though Jeff Gordon had a dismal finish when he ran out of gas, he's still first in points, and he has one win, which will undoubtedly get him into the chase. Junior is still second in points with his 2 wins, and coming up into third place with his 3rd win was Brad Keselowski, and dropping to 4th in points is Jimmy Johnson, who had a horrible day at Loudon. But don't worry about Jimmy, folks. He has 3 wins, and he's going to be in the chase. So just don't need to worry about him at all. Okay, this past weekend, I got my local racing fix at Evergreen Speedway in Monroe, as I've been teasing. As those of you who watch some of my racing action video on my YouTube channel can see, I split most of my racing time, my local racing time, between South Sound Speedway down in Rochester and Evergreen Speedway up in Monroe. Well, this week we had already made plans to go to Evergreen because they were having a, it's called the Frontier Communications Family at the Racing Night. Family Night at the Races. Boy, howdy, I messed that one up. And it was 5 different divisions of racing, late models and street stocks and mini stocks. Those are my 3 favorites, plus I think figure 8 and Hornets. They're not called Bumblebees in Monroe. They're called Hornets. And we'd already planned to go because it was Frontier Communications Family Night at the Races. Tickets were only $10 for adults, and that was great. We were ready to go. I'm watching the nationwide race before we head up there, and got my race buddy open so I can follow along. Again, you gotta watch the race with Race Buddy if it's offered. It's really great. You get extra views of the race and all that sort of stuff. But I digress. Also had Facebook open while I was watching the nationwide race so I could follow along with my friends. And one of my friends is Molly Helmuth, a NASCAR late model racer up at Monroe Speedway, and her sponsor, Frontier Communications, was giving away pairs of tickets to the races to anyone who could answer a trivia question about their driver, Molly Helmuth. So when she posted on Facebook that she had a trivia contest going, my first thought was, well, we're planning on going anyway, so we'll just see you up at the races later, and you can tell us what the answer is when I see you. And then I watched the comments, and no one seemed to be getting the answer right. She never said that there was a winner or anything like that. So I went to her Facebook page, not her Facebook page, I went to her website and looked under the appropriate column for Molly's favorite TV shows, did a little cut and paste, and went back over to Facebook, put in the comment section there, and went about watching the nationwide race. A few minutes later, lo and behold, a message comes from Molly Helmet saying, "Hey, you got it right, and if you want, you get to go to the races for free tonight." And I tell you, folks, that was good news. I enjoy getting to go to the races for free. My wife and I were planning to go anyway, and like I say, when you get free tickets handed to you, folks, race fans, that is just too cool for school. But it's not my first time to win tickets to a race. Not even my first time to win tickets to a race out at Evergreen. Several years ago, the local racing radio show, North Sound Racing, was giving away tickets, and I was able to get in and win some tickets to some late model racing that was really enjoyable. But once, back home in Alabama, I won tickets for a Talladega Cup race from a local TV station by knowing the name of the owner of the first winning Cup car at that 2.33 mile, 33-degree banked track. And then, in the parking area on race day, I saw the van from the sports division of the local TV station from whom I had won the tickets, and they were coming at me down through the parking area. So I slowed down a little bit, and as I passed closely to them, I had the window rolled down in my old Cavalier, and I stuck half my body up out of the window and looked at them and shouted as loud as I could, "Ray Nichols got me in the race! Ray Nichols got me here!" The sports guys waved and smiled and then quickly drove away. And then when my brother and I found a parking place, went inside, and got to see Dale Earnhardt Sr. win the race that day at Talladega. It was a really fun day, although we had to sit up rather close. If you've ever been to a big track, you know, sitting up close, you end up at the end of the day with that dirty, gritty feeling from all the junk that blows up off the track. But it was still a great day of racing, and I wouldn't trade it for anything. But to return to the last Saturday night's racing at Evergreen, the weather was great. They had 5 divisions that ran fairly quickly with very few snags. In the mini stock main, the 07 of Andy Shukar won an interesting race that included a strong run by young Trenton Moriarty in the number 24, and a big flame up in the 00 of Chuck Richards. And he got out of there quickly, and he was safe, but his car looked like it was toast. And you can see that on my YouTube channel. I've got that footage posted, so give it a watch. Then the next race was the street stock division, and that was won by Roger Drake in his number 1 car. It was an exciting 30-lap main. Now, later, after I had posted my video of that race, I saw on Facebook that video had been used to try to settle an argument over who may have wrecked whom, and who might have been at fault over what would have happened over here. I just want everybody to remember, to paraphrase Kenny Schrader, who's one of my favorite race car drivers. If you're out there on the track, you got to accept part of the blame. Nobody made you get out there. So, I hope my videos might help end arguments and not fuel them. But it reminds me of a time back watching Talladega, watching Talladega on TV one year. The race got bumped because it was in rain delay, and CBS had to go and show golf, some senior pageant golf junk. But anyway, so when the race got started again, we all had to huddle around the radio and try to figure out what was going on. And we hear that there's a big wreck at the front of the field, taking out some of our favorites. And later on, we see that the local news has a little amateur video clip, back when they called it amateur video clips. But anyway, they didn't have, CBS wasn't showing the race until the following Saturday, but the local TV station had, like I said, a little video clip that showed the wreck. And it clearly showed that Ernie Irvan started the wreck by tapping my favorite driver back then, Sterling Marlin. Let's have a drink. By tapping Sterling Marlin and sending him into the side of Dale Earnhardt while they were running first and second, and Ernie Irvan was running third. Well, I ran a VCR tape during the news broadcast because they said they were going to show the footage, and then after they showed it, we took that footage and ran it back and forth and back and forth and over and over and over until we almost burnt a hole in the tape. We were watching it like it was the Zapruder film, and we're hoping that some sort of evidence would come from it that would change the outcome of the race. But no, Dale and Sterling still got wrecked, and Jeff Gordon, of course, won that race at Talladega. But back to Evergreen. The last race, the late model race, went off without a caution. It was a wonderful race. 75 laps of late model racing led to the green flag by young Tyler Tanner in his number 65 Seattle suntan car, in which he led a lot of the first part of the race. He was real strong at the beginning, but he was passed before the halfway mark by the eventual winner, the wily veteran champion there out at Evergreen, Tom Moriarty, in his number 12 car. Again, it was great fun, wonderful evening of racing. I've got the video posted on the StockCar Scott YouTube channel, so please give it a watch if you get a chance. And I think one of the nicest thing about Saturday evening going to the races was at the end of it all, that huge, beautiful full moon rose up over the track. So it was, again, beautiful night of racing. And one of the nice things, although it wasn't nice as nice as it could have been for her, was that Molly Helmet it was unfortunate she did not have a car prepared for the race that night. She's had a problem with one of her cars. Her main car got wrecked, and her secondary car blew an engine. So she's been having her problems this year, but she still went to the race. She took one of her cars to use as a show car, and talked to the fans, have a trivia contest for her sponsor, Frontier Communications, and do all of the things that she should have done in promoting her sponsor. And then later on, after doing that promotional part, setting up there with the Frontier people and helping them promote their product, then she got up and helped promote the track by being the trophy girl for the night. And she made a very, very nice trophy girl. So, one other race, local race I want to touch on for last weekend was the K&N West Series race at Post Falls, Idaho at the State Line Stadium Speedway. The pole of that race was won by Spokane NASCAR driver Braden Havens, and the race was won by Charles Bickford in the number 6 Ford. This event will be shown on Fox Sports 1 Friday, July 25th. I suggest you watch it. K&N West Racing's always good, and State Line Speedway is a wonderful little track. I wish we could have gone. Well, folks, that's the racing I watched last weekend. What did you watch? I understand Street Stocks had a good night of racing down at South Sound Speedway, along with wing sprint cars, Bumblebees, and Legends. Bumblebees are what they call their Hornets. And we saw a great late model race there a couple of weeks ago on July 5th, along with a really nice fireworks display that night. Might want to check that out on the YouTube channel there. Next week, South Sound has big rig racing. Yep, big diesel trucks are going to race around their little 3/8 mile track, and it is entertaining. We went a couple of years ago. Yes, it's very interesting. I think Evergreen this weekend has drifting, so I'll probably stay home and do yard work. There isn't any Sprint Cup race this weekend. They take the weekend off before the Brickyard. It's all Nationwide and ARCA racing this weekend. They're both at Chicagoland on ESPN and Fox Sports, respectively. Now, I'm pretty sure ESPN is showing the Nationwide race live, but I've been looking, and it looks like the Fox Sports presentation of the ARCA race is going to be tape delay, or maybe it's going to be live on that Phantom channel of theirs, Fox Sports 2, that no one seems to have. So look for it. I know for sure it's going to be in tape delay later Saturday night. One other thing is, the reason you watch Nationwide and ARCA is because of the up-and-coming stars. And this being a week off for Cup drivers, some of them may race, but it's going to be mostly their regulars racing against them. You know, Nationwide racing against Nationwide, ARCA racing against ARCA, and it gives you a chance to see their talent and see the talent pool that NASCAR has to work from coming up for the next couple of years. So watch it. You'll get to see Chase Elliott and Ty Dillon and Dylan Kwasniewski, and you'll be able to say, I got to see those guys back when. I've seen Dylan Kwasniewski at Evergreen in the K&N West Series, and he is really good, folks. So watch these early races. You know, they give you it. For me, it's like watching college football. You know, my brothers have always asked, why do you watch those races? It's college football to pro football. You get to see who's going to be racing later down the road in Cup. Also, another thing to look out for is tomorrow, Friday, is a tape delay of a modified race at New Hampshire. And those Northeast modified guys, they know how to put on a good show. So set your DVR, whatever you got, for it's on tomorrow sometime, and it'll be a great little race to watch, and they'll show it several times over the next week or so. And then early Sunday morning this weekend is going to be the epitome of world motorsports. Of course, F1 is in Germany this weekend, and both Nico Rosberg and Lewis Hamilton in their Mercedes will be trying to win at their manufacturer's home track. And also, Sebastian Vettel, running for Red Bull, will be trying to win at his home track. So, it'll be well worth watching. I don't know if everybody will be wanting to get up at 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning to watch it live. I probably will. But that's just what I do. I love racing, folks, and I won't lie. I like Lewis Hamilton. I like him for this weekend at Germany, at the German Grand Prix. And I like him for winning the championship, even though he's a few points behind his teammate Nico Rosberg right now. So we'll just have to watch Formula One and see how it turns out. Well, folks, it's been fun. I've been wanting to do this again for a long time, at least something like this, and hopefully with some positive feedback, I might even continue doing it. So until then, we'll see y'all at the races.